You are ready, Jasmine.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay? All good? Can you hear
All good.
me? Awesome. So lovely to see you, Liberty. Just to speak to what Liberty was saying, I work with a lot of moms doing my hypnobirthing classes, and a lot of them will do the steaming as well. And they always have really rave reviews and really positive results from the steaming that they do. So it's great to see you here, Liberty. And thank you so much to Carrie for organising this amazing event. And I'm very honoured to be with all of these amazing women today. So I'm just going to share some slides as we do this to introduce myself. I can go off on a tangent, so I need my slides to keep me on focus. So I am Jasmine Collin. I would call myself a pregnancy, birth and parenting mindset coach. And I am going to use this half an hour just to tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit about my journey, and a couple of slides from my recent free mini course called From Scared to Prepared. So this is me with my son, who is now 11, so a long time ago. He was about a minute old after this picture was taken. My second birth with him was a beautiful home water birth at my mum's house. And that necklace that I'm wearing was made by all my doula friends from Abu Dhabi. And I still wear that a lot today. So I have been sort of in the birthing world for about 13 years now. Before having my own children, I knew nothing. I was a training and HR manager for a company in London. And when I was pregnant, when I was about 34 weeks pregnant, I was, quite a typical pregnant woman at that point. I believed that there was going to be lots of pain, lots of suffering, lots of, terrible things to do with birth. I was brought up quite religiously. And I'd always heard about this curse of Eve, and I really believed it was my destiny that women needed to suffer and have pain in childbirth. So I was on a one-way ticket to an epidural for sure. I would have been quite, I think, relieved if somebody had told me I needed a C-section, because I was so terrified about the birth process. I was very lucky indeed to have a good friend give me a book which completely changed my life. I'm going to show you a few books today. These are the kind of books that have helped me on my journey, and I thought I might share them with you guys as well. So this is the first book that I ever read on pregnancy and childbirth, The Gentle Birthing Method by Dr. Gowri Motha. And it was very interesting. They had chapters on nutrition and physical preparation, but it was the last chapter on the mind preparation that really grabbed my attention. I was already an NLP practitioner, which is a neuro-linguistic practitioner in my work. So I really understood the power of the mind. And then the idea of applying that to my pregnancy and birth was just like, oh my God, this is just amazing. So I listened to the CD at the back of that book every day on my way to work. I was still very open to the idea that I might need drugs or interventions, and I wasn't going to be a martyr or a I didn't feel like I needed the natural birth badge. And then I was very pleasantly surprised to find my labor with my first baby, Amber, my daughter Amber, was very straightforward, relatively easy. I didn't even know I was in labor for the first 6 hours. I think I was in denial, actually. And I came out of, I had a very, I nearly gave birth at home, actually. She was nearly born at home, and I only just made it to the hospital with 15 minutes to spare. And after that experience, I was just like amazed at my body and how different that was to how we are led to believe that it might be in the movies and the stories that we hear. So I then moved to Abu Dhabi and I became a doula. So I've attended a lot of births as a doula, and I love doing that. But I really recognized that if I could get to the parents way before the birth, I could really help them prepare their mind. So I became a hypnobirthing teacher. And this was, 13 years ago. And the first course I did was the Mongan method. So some of you might have heard of the Mongan method. It's probably the most original hypnobirthing course. It's quite old. It's about 30 years old now. And I was pregnant with my son, Indy, at the time. So I then got to practice all of the tools and techniques from this program in my second birth. And so that's him. And then I decided I wanted a home water birth. I traveled back from Abu Dhabi to my mum's house in the UK to have that. And then I've been teaching these classes for a long time, but also my classes have evolved over the years. I've also qualified as a clinical hypnotherapist and a theta healer, so that I can really go deep with couples and especially mums in their preparation for their birth journey. So I think a lot of people have talked about hypnobirthing already, but if you didn't know what it is, it's a childbirth preparation method that really helps to prepare mums and dads for the most positive birthing experience they can have. Ideally, it kind of stacks the odds in their favor of having a more natural birth. But I think, like what Gabby was saying, one of my favorite affirmations from the hypnobirthing course is, I am prepared to take whatever path my birthing takes. So this is a really important part of it, because yes, we want to prepare for the best, but we also have to be sort of flexible and open to other things that might happen on that day. And it's about, being able to cope with those situations, not necessarily having a fixed idea of the situation and how it goes, but to remain calm and connected to yourself all the way through it. So I also trained as a baby calm and toddler calm teacher. After teaching hypnobirthing for a few years, I recognized that the after part, when the baby actually arrives, is probably harder than the birth. And I support a lot of couples, mums, with my baby calm, or used to with my baby calm classes. And then I had a really, really challenging time as a parent of my son, who is now 11, still quite challenging. And he inspired me to look at myself and my own childhood journey, and how to approach parenting toddlers. He was pushing all my buttons, and I found Toddler Calm, becoming a Toddler Calm teacher really helped me to take him through those years without parenting in a way that I didn't want to. So that's the yelling, and I don't believe in smacking children, but there were times when I really wanted to, and I had to do a lot of work on myself to not do that. Okay, so I really love helping not just couples prepare for birth, but also to cope with parenting, because that can be a very tough journey as well. So I have two children, Amber and Indy, who are now 14 and 11. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to talk about birth more today than parenting. So I love to take couples, especially mothers, to be from scared to prepared. Now, those of you who are old enough to remember the old Wonder Woman, do you remember when she used to spin around? I really want mums to go into their birthing experiences feeling like they're ready for this, like they've got the tools, that they can still, connect to themselves during the process, and that they've really kind of addressed any fears that they might have. So that's what I'm going to focus the rest of my talk on, is just kind of looking at birth fears and what you can do about them. So I don't know how many of you are pregnant here or today listening to this, but if you are, I want you to, or maybe if you've already had your children, I want you to think about the day of your baby's birth. If it's coming up, if you're pregnant, or maybe if you've already had your children, what was it that you were most scared of? And if you can put that if you can put any answers in the chat, that would be great. I'm just going to see if I can find the chat. Hang on. What is it that you are scared of, or what was it that you were scared of? Anybody? put some stuff in the chat if you can think of anything you're scared of. And what I like to do is to refer to these fears or the things that you're scared of as your birth tigers. And Gabby will relate to this as well if she's listening. We did a little talk on this together. So what is it that you're scared of during the birth? Or maybe you could even be scared of things afterwards as well, like, you know, what kind of mother you're going to be, how are you going to cope, what's going to happen to your sense of self. So there can be a lot of fears that pregnant women have during their pregnancy, that it's a good idea to have a think about and address those before you go into your birth. And I'll talk about why that's important in just a second. So some very common fears that I hear a lot of women talk about are obviously being quite scared of the pain that they've heard so much about. You know, will they be able to cope with it? They think they might have a low pain threshold. And, you know, the idea of having a lot of pain is obviously quite scary to a lot of women. And they're worried about suffering and not being able to cope. And also just, you know, not being in control. So in labor and birth, we're never in control of what's going on in our bodies. But in my classes, what we do is we learn to be in control of our response to it. So even though you don't have control over situations all the time and what's going on, you can always choose your response. Or as much as possible. So what I try and do in the classes is to clear out these birth tigers, these things that you're scared of, so that they don't affect you during labor and birth so much. So why is that important? Let's have a look. Here's my slide. Okay, so why is it important to tame your tigers? A lot of you will already know this already, but I'll just go over it again. So when you either have a real threat in your birthing environment, okay, like if we were birthing millions of years ago and there was a real tiger, your body would respond in a stress response, in the fight, flight, freeze response. Because obviously a real tiger in your birthing environment is going to be not a very good thing. And obviously your life is at risk and your baby's life is at risk. So your body reacts in a way that it goes into survival. Okay, so when you're in the stress or the fight flight response, you get adrenaline released in your body. And it actually moves all of the blood in your body away from the uterus and into your arms for fighting and your legs for running. Okay, the muscles will tighten, and you get ready to run or you get ready to fight. And you also get an increased sensitivity to pain when you're in the fight or flight response. And this can obviously, increase the pain. And obviously, if your muscles are tight, you're going to feel things, you're going to feel more pain. So we really want to avoid any situations where there's going to be a real tiger in your birthing, in your birthing environment. And obviously there probably won't be. But the interesting thing is about our wonderful minds is they are so powerful that even if we are thinking about a tiger or we're thinking about something else that scares us, our body will react as if it is real. And that is the key to understanding the mind-body connection. Is your mind is very, very powerful. And you don't want to be thinking about everything that could go wrong or worried about the fears that you might have. You might be scared of tearing, you might be scared of pooping, you might be scared that your husband's going to faint. So all of these things can actually create more anxiety and more stress in the body. So we really want to address any fears and any of these things preferably beforehand, rather than letting those come up in labor and worry you. So yeah, so when you've got adrenaline in your body, when there's any fear or worry or anxiety, then labor can be more painful, and it can be more slow, and it could even stop. And if you think about it, it makes complete sense that would be of use in a real situation where there's a real threat like a tiger. But obviously we don't have real tigers these days, but we do have our internal fears. Plus we also have the environment around us, which we have to be very mindful of as well. So even a slight disturbance in your birthing environment, you know, driving down the Sheikh Zayed Road if you live in Dubai, having people coming in and out of your room all of the time, any of these little disturbances to your birth can also trigger your fight or flight response. Not to mention, you know, when you arrive at the hospital, having vaginal exams, having cannulas put in, lots of poking and prodding, that can all of those things can give your body the message that this is not a good time to have a baby. And so it can slow things down, make it more painful, and increase your risk of then needing other interventions and things to speed things up. So we don't want so much of that. We really want to avoid those things, and we want lots of the opposite. So when you're feeling safe, when you're feeling loved, when you're feeling supported, when you've got that skin to skin and you're feeling undisturbed, unobserved, you're not being measured against the progress that they're looking for at the hospital, you can really relax and get energy to the uterus. When you're in this mode of the relaxation response, you have decreased sensitivity to pain and awareness of pain. It actually changes your perception of pain. And actually expecting pain can actually heighten your perception of pain as well. So we do a lot of work in the classes about reframing pain. Not that we're gonna always have a pain-free birth, but we can reframe the way we perceive it and the way we react to it. So when you're in this mode, you get all the lovely oxytocin, all the beautiful endorphins, and these are going to help your labor to be easier, more comfortable, will continue and hopefully move things along at a rate so you're not in labor for huge amounts of time. Okay, I'm just checking the time. Oh God, I can talk forever. Right. Okay. So, and also you want to think about where your birth tigers have come from as well. So that is another thing that you can do. Just so you know, I have a free mini series on Scared to Prepared where I go into this in a bit more detail. And if you want that, you can contact me and I'll send that over to you. So here's some ideas of how you can tame your birth tigers. Okay, so just talking about them is the first step, really. Identifying what they are. So if you're doing this and you're pregnant, write down what they are and then start talking to somebody about them. Just airing them sometimes can make them, you know, sort of come to the surface, and you can start to, you know, either feel better about them or you can start to do something about them. Involve your partner. So whether this is your husband or somebody else in your life that is going to be supporting you, get them involved and talk to them about your fears. Now I know Anna's coming up next and she's going to be doing some stuff with the birth partner, but it's really important to get him involved as much as possible during the pregnancy so that he feels a part of the process. And there's something that very special that happens in certainly my classes, it probably happens in everybody's antenatal classes or hypnobirthing classes, is that the more your husband partner understands what's going on and the more skills he has to support you, the more you can kind of let go and start to relax and let go a little bit of that control and know that he is there not just physically but emotionally to support you. So it's a very beautiful thing that happens during certainly my classes, where it's almost like there's one point where you can see the mums just kind of relax when they realize that their husband knows what they're doing. And that's a really important thing that happens during any kind of antenatal classes, because the mum needs to let go during labor. And without their husband or partner to hold them emotionally as well as physically, they, without that, then they're still trying to control everything, and then they're not really surrendering and letting go to the birth process. So really important to involve your birth partner. I'm sure Anna's got a great session coming up on that. Yeah, reach out, join support groups. Sometimes pregnancy can feel a very alone time. You can feel quite isolated. You might think, well, I might be the only one having these fears. But when you join events like this and groups, you'll find out that you're definitely not alone. Myself and Amy Vogler run a nice group called Informed Pregnancy and Birth UAE that you can come and join. And we've got a couple of thousand women on there. We've got lovely doulas, we've got midwives, we've got a couple of obstetricians on there as well. So it's nice to come on there and, just talk about your fears or get information, get advice, find doulas, find supportive doctors, which I'll talk about in a minute. The next one, stop making it worse. So going over and over and over your fears in your head is just going to create anxiety now in your body, and it's going to obviously affect your labor as well. So stop making it worse by overthinking all your fears over and over, and to stop putting any more fears in your mind, because quite often you'll have probably noticed that there's a lot of negativity around birth, whether it's watching the movies or listening to the stories of your friends or your family. The overriding message about birth is lots of negativity and fear. So just like you don't want to be putting junk food into your body, because it's not healthy for your body and your baby, you want to think of information in the same way. So really not letting any of that negativity in your field, in your energy field anymore. And just recognizing that it's the movies and it's not real, and other people's stories doesn't mean that has to be part of your story. I think, like Gabby was saying earlier, you might only hear small parts of it. And especially if it's a negative story, being pregnant, listening to negative stories isn't always the most helpful thing, because when you're pregnant, you're very open to suggestion. And those kind of stories can go into your subconscious, and can actually be creating anxiety and worry. So do try and now recognize that you don't have to take all that on board, and to be more conscious of what you're putting in your mind. Okay, and then you want to think about finding out more about positive birth and reading positive birth stories and listening to podcasts. Oh, thanks, Carrie. One of my favorite books for that is this one. So I know it's mentioned already. This is the other one I read in my first birth, and there's lots and lots of birth stories in there about big babies, difficult births. It's not just about easy births with angels singing in the background. There's some really real births in this book, and the best thing about it is that you can really see how strong and powerful women are at dealing with any kind of birth. So Ina May Gaskin's Guide to Childbirth is fantastic. There's also some really positive birth stories on my website, jasminecollin.com, and you can go over and read those if you wish. Getting physical is obviously going to be helping release endorphins and make you feel better. So, doing daily exercise, I'm sure you all know, is very important. Write the name of the book again. I'll just leave it there for you. It's Ina May Gaskin's Guide to Childbirth. Get informed and educate yourself. This is really important, because if you don't know what you want or have an idea of what you want, you will sometimes just end up getting what you're given, which unfortunately, especially in Dubai and other places in the world that took on the US model of birth, isn't always the most natural and empowering experience. So getting informed is really important. My favorite podcast for this is the Evidence-Based Birth podcast. My favorite book for this is this one, the Thinking Woman's Guide to a Better Birth. And I can put that in the chat afterwards as well. Okay, so this one's a really good, very unbiased, factual, science-based information about all your options. And then once you've got your, you've done your research, you've read around, you've listened to the podcast, putting your birth preferences together is very important. Now, a lot of people say it's not any point writing a plan, nobody listens to it, nobody follows it, but writing your birth preferences is a way. The power of writing your birth preferences is about informing and educating yourself. But you do need to stay open and flexible with that list as well. So that's why we don't call it a plan, but it is a good idea to do it, because then you can use that to find the doctor and hospital that will support that. And you can try and stick to it as much as possible. So the next thing is, thanks Mel, the next thing you can do to tame your tigers is to choose your doctor and hospital wisely. When you're on the same page as your doctor and you know they fully support your wishes and they know your values and you're aligned with your doctor and hospital, you can take a big sigh, because you know that you've done the sort of groundwork to really finding the right birth support team. And also I would include in that finding a good doula as well. And there's lots on here today. So getting, a good birth team around you will allow you to relax. So your husband will be trained up. You've got this great doctor, hospital as supportive as possible, and a doula, and you're nicely set up for the birth. I would suggest also, and this is what I would do more of in my courses, is to look at your beliefs about where they've come from and to question them and change them. So I had a belief when I was pregnant that there was lots of pain and suffering in birth, and I would have gladly taken an epidural straight away. But just by reading a book, I completely changed one belief, and it completely changed my birth, and it's completely changed my life, because I wouldn't be here today. So really getting real about your beliefs, where they've come from, and then deciding whether or not you want to continue to believe them or not is a very powerful thing to do. Mastering your mindset. So just like an athlete would prepare for a big race, or a tennis player, there's physical preparation, but mental preparation is really important too. So we apply in hypnobirthing lots of different tools to create a more positive mindset, no matter what is happening around you, and to keep you in control of your mind. Because otherwise, as we know, it can spin off in all sorts of different crazy directions. Learning how to breathe. I know you all know how to breathe, but you also know that your breath is so powerful. So learning how to breathe effectively for labor is very, very important as well. These are all things that will be covered in a hypnobirthing class. Also learning how to relax deeply and easily and readily, no matter what is going on, is a great thing to be able to do. And all of the tools you learn in hypnobirthing are applicable in all areas of your life, by the way. We also have fear release meditations in hypnobirthing. Obviously, come and do my love birthing course if you're pregnant and that this all resonates with you. We'll be covering all of that in my courses. I'm just going to finish up telling you a little bit more. Sorry, I'm having problems with my slides. So taming your birth tigers so that you turn them into pussycats, basically, so that they don't bother you so much on the day. So you have a real clear out of all these fears. And it's a beautiful thing to witness in my classes when I see mums and dads going from absolutely kind of terrified or worried to feeling completely prepared and ready for their birthing experiences. And just remembering a very quick and easy way to do that is to, create that undisturbed and positive birth setting. So just to finish up, oh, hang on. Yeah, I know, I'm 1 minute over. Right. So just a bit about me. I have group and private courses available. My website is jasminecollin.com. It's just been updated, actually. Have a look at that. Contact me if you'd like my free online Scared to Prepare mini course recording that I did just before Christmas. It includes this class, but it also includes finding a supportive hospital and doctor, how to do that. And also the third class is a breathing technique, a relaxation technique, and a visualization technique that you can have. There's also a free MP3 on my website that you can go and download. And any of you who already have children and are interested in my parenting coaching program, I would love to hear from you as well. So I think that's it.